Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Who are you right now? Are you everything you could be? Or are you shackled to a weaker, lesser version of yourself, a version that makes excuses, that avoids responsibility, that hides in the shadows of comfort instead of standing in the light of challenge? Because let's be honest, if you're not growing, if you're not evolving, then you're decaying. And the part of you that's keeping you small, that part needs to die. You need to kill that weak version of yourself, and I mean that in the most serious way possible. Not with violence, not with rage, but with ruthless self-honesty, discipline, and the courage to transform. The first thing you must understand is that the version of yourself that avoids discomfort, makes excuses, and clings to bad habits is not just holding you back, it's actively destroying you. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, every time you avoid responsibility, every time you indulge in weakness, you're reinforcing a version of yourself that is incapable of achieving anything meaningful. And the worst part, that version of you is comfortable. It whispers in your ear, telling you that you're fine as you are, that it's okay to stay the same. But deep down, you know that's a lie. You have to be ruthless in recognizing and eliminating the parts of yourself that keep you small. Weakness isn't just about lacking physical strength, it's about lacking discipline, avoiding hard truths, and refusing to step up to life's demands. Weakness is when you know what you should do but let your emotions, distractions, or fears convince you otherwise. It's skipping the gym because you don't feel like it. It's avoiding that difficult conversation because it makes you uncomfortable. It's staying in a miserable situation because changing would require effort. These small daily decisions define your life. And if you consistently choose weakness, your life will reflect that. The only way forward is to kill that weak version of yourself. That means making decisions based on what is right, not what is easy. It means holding yourself to a higher standard, one that doesn't allow excuses or self-pity. It means confronting your flaws, not as a way to shame yourself, but as a way to fix them. The moment you start doing this, something incredible happens. You begin to change. You start to see that strength is built through struggle, that confidence is earned through discipline, and that every sacrifice you make for a better version of yourself pays off in ways you never imagined. But this process isn't painless. There will be resistance. Your mind will fight back, telling you that you don't need to change, that you can start tomorrow, that it's too hard. Ignore it. That voice is the old you, the weak you trying to survive. You don't owe it anything. Instead, starve it. Stop feeding it with excuses and distractions. Let it die. And as it fades, something stronger will take its place. You will become someone capable, disciplined, and resilient. The kind of person who doesn't just survive, but thrives. People often talk about potential as if it's some passive, gentle thing, something that will naturally unfold over time. But that's a dangerous misconception. Your potential is not soft, and it's certainly not something that will reveal itself without effort. It is a monster, a force of nature buried deep within you, waiting to be unleashed. And like any powerful force, it's both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The reason most people never tap into it is because doing so requires them to face things they would rather avoid: discipline, responsibility, and the destruction of their old selves. This is why so many people settle for mediocrity. They know deep down that if they truly embrace their potential, they would have to change in ways that demand sacrifice. They would have to give up laziness, stop blaming others, and take control of their lives. That level of accountability is frightening. It's easier to stay in familiar patterns, to convince yourself that you're doing okay rather than admit that you're wasting your own power. But make no mistake, your potential isn't something that waits around forever. If you neglect it, if you bury it under excuses, it will rot inside you. And you will feel that decay every single day in the form of regret, frustration, and a nagging sense that you were meant for more. The key to unlocking your true power is understanding that you are capable of far more than you believe, but that capability means nothing if you don't act on it. Potential is like raw energy. It must be harnessed, directed, and sharpened through consistent action. It requires suffering, because transformation is not comfortable. It requires stepping into the unknown, facing the fact that you might fail, and pushing forward anyway. The people you admire, the ones who seem unstoppable, the ones who have built incredible lives, are not fundamentally different from you. They just made the decision to wake up the monster inside them instead of keeping it locked away. If you truly want to unleash your potential, stop waiting for permission. Stop looking for the perfect moment. Decide that the weak, passive version of yourself is no longer in charge. Step into the power that has been waiting inside you all along. It will be uncomfortable. It will be painful. But if you commit, you will realize that Everything you ever wanted was on the other side of that fear. Everything you want in life, confidence, success, strength, meaning, comes down to one thing: responsibility. The moment you take full responsibility for your life is the moment everything changes. People spend years blaming their circumstances, their upbringing, their environment, or even society for their failures. But as long as you externalize your problems, you surrender your ability to change them. The harsh truth is that no one is coming to save you. No one will put in the work for you. If your life is not where you want it to be, then it is your job to fix it. Taking responsibility means acknowledging that every decision you make, every habit you reinforce, and every action you take or don't take is shaping your future. If you're undisciplined, that's your fault. If you lack confidence, that's your fault. If you feel lost, weak, or unfulfilled, that is also on you. This isn't about shame or self-hatred. It's about realizing that if you created the problem, you have the power to solve it. And that's a liberating realization. Because once you take full responsibility, you are no longer a victim. You are in control. But responsibility is heavy. It means sacrificing comfort for discipline. It means facing your flaws without making excuses. It means waking up every day and choosing to do what is difficult instead of what is easy. People avoid responsibility because it is hard, but avoiding it leads to a far worse outcome: weakness, stagnation, and a meaningless existence. Responsibility, on the other hand, gives you purpose. It forces you to grow, to strengthen yourself, to become someone who can handle the weight of existence without collapsing. When you embrace responsibility, you develop real confidence, not the fake kind that comes from external validation, but the unshakable kind that comes from proving to yourself over and over again that you can handle life. Confidence is not something you're born with, it's something you earn through disciplined action. You earn it by setting goals and achieving them, by keeping your word, by pushing yourself past your limits. The difference between people who succeed and those who don't is simple. Successful people take full responsibility for everything in their lives, while unsuccessful people look for someone or something else to blame. The choice is yours. You can remain weak, or you can step up and take control. The moment you do, you'll realize that responsibility isn't a burden, it's the key to freedom. Fear is the force that keeps people trapped in the lives they claim they don't want. It's the invisible cage that convinces you to stay exactly where you are, even when you know you're capable of more. But here's the truth: fear of change is far worse than change itself. People cling to their current reality, no matter how unfulfilling, because the idea of stepping into the unknown is terrifying. What if you fail? What if you make the wrong decision? What if things don't work out? These questions paralyze people into inaction, and in doing so, they choose slow decay over rapid transformation. What most people don't realize is that staying the same is also a choice, and it's one that comes with consequences. If you refuse to change, you're not actually staying still, you're deteriorating. The habits you reinforce, the comfort you indulge in, and the responsibilities you avoid all shape you into something weaker over time. You don't wake up one day suddenly miserable, you arrive there after years of avoiding the necessary pain of growth. That's the real tragedy, the person you could have been slowly slipping away while you remain shackled by fear. The irony is that change itself is never as painful as the fear of it. Yes, stepping into something new requires discomfort. Yes, you will face setbacks. Yes, you might fail at first, but those things are not permanent. Struggle is temporary, but regret is forever. You don't want to look back on your life and realize you let fear dictate your choices. That is a nightmare far worse than any short-term discomfort. The only way to break free is to accept that fear is part of the process. You don't wait for fear to disappear before you act despite the fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward regardless of it. Once you do, you'll realize that change isn't something to be afraid of, it's something to seek out. Every meaningful breakthrough in life happens when you step beyond what is familiar and force yourself into the unknown. The sooner you accept that fear is an obstacle designed to be pushed through, the sooner you will start living a life that actually reflects your true potential. The pain of changing is temporary. The pain of staying the same lasts a lifetime. Choose wisely. People love to tell themselves that change takes time, but that's just an excuse to avoid responsibility. The truth is, change doesn't take time, it takes commitment. It takes a decision, a single, deliberate moment where you stop tolerating your own mediocrity and decide to be better. The problem is, most people never make that decision. They wait. They wait for motivation, for the right circumstances, for some external sign that tells them it's time to start. But waiting is the same as choosing to stay the same. If you keep telling yourself that you'll change one day, that day will never come. The idea that transformation is a slow, passive process is one of the biggest lies people believe. Growth doesn't happen gradually, it happens when you force yourself to step outside your comfort zone and take immediate, deliberate action. You don't become disciplined over months or years, you become disciplined the moment you stop making excuses and start acting like someone who is disciplined. You don't gain confidence by waiting to feel ready. You gain confidence by throwing yourself into difficult situations and proving that you can handle them. The shift happens the second you decide to behave differently. And every moment after that is either reinforcing your new self or slipping back into old patterns. The reason people think change takes time is because they try to negotiate with their weaknesses. They ease into it, making small, hesitant efforts instead of fully committing. But real transformation requires you to burn the bridge to your old self. The moment you decide to wake up early, push yourself in the gym, take responsibility for your actions, and stop indulging in self-destructive habits, you are already becoming a different person. The more consistently you reinforce that choice, the faster it solidifies into who you are. There will never be a perfect time to start. You will never feel completely ready. If you keep waiting for the stars to align, you will spend your entire life stuck exactly where you are. Change doesn't require years of planning. It requires a single decision followed by relentless action. Right now, in this very moment, you have everything you need to start becoming the person you were meant to be. The only thing standing in your way is the belief that you have time to waste. You don't. Make the decision. Commit fully. And watch how fast your life transforms. Becoming your strongest self is not about small improvements or gradual adjustments. It is about destruction and rebirth. The weak version of you, the one filled with excuses, doubts, and bad habits, cannot come with you into the future. It has to be left behind. It has to die. This is not a comfortable process, and it's not supposed to be. Transformation is violent. It requires you to tear apart the version of yourself that has been holding you back and build something entirely new in its place. Most people resist this because they are attached to their old identity. Even if they hate where they are in life, even if they feel stuck, lost, or unfulfilled, there is comfort in the familiar. The idea of shedding that identity even for something better feels like a kind of death. And in a way it is. The lazy, fearful, undisciplined version of you is fighting for its survival. It wants to keep you exactly where you are, because change is painful, and pain is what it has spent years avoiding. But avoiding pain only leads to more suffering. Every day that you refuse to let go of your old self, you extend your own misery. You stay trapped in patterns that weaken you, in habits that drain you, in a mindset that keeps you small. The longer you hold on, the harder it becomes to break free. That's why real transformation requires a moment of absolute clarity, a point where you decide once and for all that enough is enough. That you will no longer tolerate your own weakness. That you will no longer cling to the identity of someone who avoids responsibility, who makes excuses, who settles for less than they are capable of. The moment you make that decision, something inside you shifts. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop looking for easy solutions. You embrace discomfort, knowing that it is the price of becoming someone extraordinary. And as the old version of you fades, something new rises in its place, someone stronger, sharper, more resilient. Someone who does not shrink from challenges but seeks them out. Someone who does not make excuses but takes action. Someone who no longer allows weakness to define them. This is the process of becoming. It is painful. It is difficult. But in the end, when you emerge on the other side, you will realize that the person you were meant to be was waiting for you all along. You just had to let the old one go.